Welcome back to the show. My name is Mark Nixon. Get this. The Liberal government plan on spending a half trillion dollars with zero budget. There's no safety guardrails. They have no idea what kind of revenue they're going to have. They just put down with magic markers and crayons, $500 billion is going out the door. Imagine you went to the bank and said, I want $500 billion, but no plan on how I'm going to generate the income to pay for that back. They would laugh at your face, but unless you work for Ottawa, of course. They have no projections. They have no math. They have zero plan. People elected Mark Carney because he's this economic genius. But it doesn't take a genius to figure out that you need to have revenue in order to have expenses. In the real world, what you do is you figure out how much you're going to make before you figure out how much you're going to spend. That is real life. But this government, they do everything backwards. And welcome to Canada, where fiscal responsibility leaves the door when you enter. We're going to get into this ridiculous spending plan. There is zero fiscal anchors with this government, and we're going to get into it, plus much, much more. Let's get into the show. Let's check out global news, and you are not going to believe how they're trying to justify this atrocious amount of spending. They're trying to minimize. It's just not that much. It's the same as the Liberal government.
Mark Carney promised more fiscal discipline, and he plans to spend $486 billion this year. That's about the same as the Trudeau government did last year. But even that is too much for the Conservatives.
Just like Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney's spending is absolutely out of control. In fact, it's worse.
This week's spending plan is certain to change in the fall once it is updated with the $24 billion in new spending commitments the Liberals made during the election campaign. The plan really is a first step, a baseline, and one required to essentially keep the government's lights on. Still, MPs will be asked to vote on it without the benefit of having a budget, which would detail how the government plans to raise the revenue for all this spending.
With the economic storm clouds moving in, how is it possible not to have a budget this spring?
Moreover, MPs will be asked to vote on this spending with few details about it, though the government promises ministers will provide details later.
There will be extensive examination with ministers being accountable for those sums in the House of Commons, more than that has ever occurred in recent memory.
Now, MPs will have to vote on this spending plan, and it will be a matter of confidence, although almost no one expects the government to fall when that vote comes sometime in June.
Are you kidding me? They don't expect the government to fall when that announcement's made in June? That should trigger this entire thing to fall. We need to have a budget. What country doesn't have a budget? Let's have some fun. What other countries around the world do not have a federal budget, or at times don't have a federal budget? Lebanon, Iraq, Libya, Venezuela, and Haiti, and Somalia, and now Canada. Well, actually, we got a budget. We got half a budget. We got the only part of the budget that should not be there. Well, yeah, you have to have some, but we need to know the revenue side. That part, oh no, that part's not there. The expense side, oh yeah, that's there. So you're spending without any safety guardrails. We have no idea what kind of revenue we're going to have, but spending, that is concrete. Now let's hear from Canada's finance minister. He came out today and said he's working very hard to make your life more affordable in Canada.
Speaker, it's a pleasure to be back in the House, and it's a pleasure to deliver for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We are delivering on our plans to make life more affordable in Canada, Mr. Speaker. The first measure we introduced was a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. There are Canadians in our riding that are going to benefit from the tax cut.
Just for reference, the tax cut he's talking about is 1% tax cut on 22 million Canadians. Just so people know, that's $1.09 every single day. You can't even buy a cup of coffee. You could get half a cup of coffee. But here's the thing. With food inflation at 3.8%, it will cost the average family $800 more for groceries this year. And that's not accounting for all the other inflation, meaning their 1% tax cut is completely gobbled up by inflation.
We're eliminating GST on first-time home buyers for their new house, Mr. Speaker, and we are removing the consumer carbon price from law, Mr. Speaker. Together, we're going to build Canada strong.
Did you hear that? They're removing the federal carbon price from the law. They told us for the last 3 years, almost on a daily basis in the House of Commons, that the price on pollution makes you better off. It doesn't do anything to inflation. And now he's saying he's making life more affordable by putting the carbon tax reduction and removal into law. You can't make any of this stuff up.
And I hope the Conservative will join us in that.
It gets much worse. You should hear our finance minister, Philippe Champagne, explain to us that Canadians chose the Liberals and the Liberals chose Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, it is very clear we have already chosen Canadians, and Canadians have chosen us, Mr. Speaker, to lead this nation, to build a more ambitious Canada, to build a strong Canada, to build the best economy in the G7. Together on this side of the House, we're going to build the Canada of the future, Mr. Speaker.
Doesn't that just make you sick? Because he's forgetting about the 8 million people that voted Conservative across Canada. Is he speaking to those Canadians? No, he is not. This is straight up a slap in the face. Then today we hear from Andrew Lawton. He says, you know what makes things even worse about this $500 billion budget? They're going to spend an additional $7 billion for consultants. When you have an economic genius, why do you have to offload all of your responsibilities to consultants? And during the election campaign, he said he would reduce consultants' cost by $6 billion. So that swing is $13 billion in additional consultant cost, resulting in $1,400 per family.
Turns out the minister was telling the truth when he said he was different from Justin Trudeau. He's actually worse. This week, the Prime Minister introduced his first spending bill called the Main Estimates for the coming year. It's a $500 billion spending bill with no budget. He promised to cap spending increases to 2%, but then 1 hour later stuck Canadians with an 8% spending hike, nearly 3 times larger than inflation and population growth combined. Single moms, seniors, and small business owners have to budget before they spend. Why doesn't the Prime Minister? This all from the guy who said he was the man with the plan and would be a strong fiscal manager. The Prime Minister will claim these are investments that will make Canadians better off, but the only ones getting richer are government consultants, who will get a record-breaking $26.1 billion this year. That's even 36% more than what Trudeau gave them. Mr. Speaker, that's $1,400 from every Canadian household going to federal government consultants. Brookfield shareholders wouldn't have stood for this, so why should Canadians?
There you go, Canada. We're in the wrong line of work. If you want to get ahead in Canada and you want to get super rich, you need to become a government consultant. And you're not going to believe this next piece of information. CBC, David Crocken, and these guys need to be defunded. He is apologetic for asking our finance minister about the $20 billion phantom tariff revenue. Remember in their costed platform that they provided us, they had $20 billion in tariff revenue. Where did all of that go? And then he was asked about a budget. Where's the budget? And our finance minister says, we don't need to provide a budget because it's not going to be accurate. Are you kidding?
The remission, right? Because tariffs become, and counter-tariffs, it becomes a circular firing squad economically. Understand the justification for the remission, right? Because tariffs become, and counter-tariffs, it becomes a circular firing squad economically. But there was still $20 billion booked as revenue from that. I mean, is that just not operational
I would say
anymore?
This is a projection at the moment in time, and it just tell people, you know, when people say you're going to present a budget in early fall, it's going to be an ambitious budget, we're going to be rigorous on
Canada, did you hear that? This is just a moment in time. It was just to get elected. And then they're like, oh yeah, elbows down, we're taking off the counter tariffs. They had it all. It was a positioning in order to trick Canadians.
Prudent. But at the same time, it just showed to people how things are changing. Like I said at the time, we have a NATO summit that is coming. So we'll have more clarity around defense investments that we need to do. At the same time, we have an efficiency review in terms of the federal government. How can we be more efficient to deliver service to Canadian? And you're talking about this trade war that's going on. And to your point, things are changing almost by the day. So you want to be in a position when you're presenting fiscal projection to have a level of certainty when you come to Canadian. Where I'm a serious person, we're going to present serious analysis with respect to the forecast. And that's why I think people have understood that the fall is the right time in order to come to Canadian with forecasts.
But is that okay with you that you have to wait all the way until fall so that you have a clear picture on our revenue and our expenses? But no, they provided us all of their expenses up front. Revenue, we'll deal with that later.
I understand that because the last time you were on the show, you were telling us there wasn't going to be a budget in the fall. It was going to be a fall economic statement, like
Yes.
which is
Then some people took it further, but I said there'll be a fall economic statement.
Right, but
And he
how
said
do
it's
we
gonna
go
be
from a fall
substantial.
economic statement only to the Prime Minister saying there's going to be a
Well,
budget?
I mean, at the end of the day, what we discussed and we said we would be in a better position by then to have a number of uncertainties. I don't want to say resolved, but at least we'll have greater clarity.
Sure.
And we're serious. And when you're serious, you say, okay, if we have that level of clarity with respect to some of the forecasts, we'll be in a position to present a full budget, which is, we want to be transparent with Canadians. But part of being transparent is providing numbers that people will say, okay, these people have done their homework. The level of uncertainty by fall, in certain respect, will probably be lesser than what we are now.
What kind of crap is this? They've done their homework on how much they're going to spend, but they did no homework on how much revenue they're going to be bringing in. That is unacceptable. How could he even sit there and say, we're trying to be transparent with Canadians?
So therefore, we'll be in a great position to present a full budget to Canadians. And,
Right.
and that's the right thing.
But this was right after Cabinet was sworn in, and not that much time passed from you saying there wouldn't be a budget, it would be a fall economic statement, and then the Prime Minister saying a full budget. And, maybe the distinction doesn't matter to Canadians, but there is a difference in the order of magnitude of what they try to
even
accomplish.
the clerk said, depends. You had fall economic statement, which had a lot more pages than budgets and listen.
So it's just a
you're
naming
going-
change?
You're
It's not a
going
substantive
You're
change,
going
or?
about semantic. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, what we want is to provide clarity to Canadian, have a level of confidence with respect to the forecast, and people who are watching us understand that once you will have had the NATO summit, hopefully by then we'll have a bit more clarity about this trade war, and we will have a chance to do more of our efficiency of government work. I think when you come with a new government, you want to come with that level of certainty about the numbers you're going to be presenting. And I think Canadians appreciate that. I mean, people watch the news like you and I. They just see how things are moving by the day. So
Yeah, and look, I can understand why you don't want to put out a budget just for the sake of putting out a budget that you're going to have to rip up 60, 90 days later. It's just, it did seem like a change, and I was curious as to know why. And also,
Doesn't that make you sick? How David Crocken's like, oh, I understand why you wouldn't want to put up a budget because it will just be ripped up 60 days later. This is unbelievable. Honestly, both of these individuals are incompetent and need to lose their positions. I honestly think that this Liberal government thinks us Canadians are straight up dumb. Check out Anita Anand explaining that her government is working extremely hard to make life more affordable in Canada by providing us cookie crumbs and leftovers.
Last month, Canadians elected a new government to bring down the cost of living and put money back in their pockets. It's the first week of the House of Commons sitting here in Ottawa, and we're getting to work to do just that. We are cutting taxes for nearly 22 million Canadians, saving families up to $840 per year. And we eliminated the GST for first-time home buyers on new homes up to $1 million. We will continue to bring down costs to fight crime and create one Canadian economy.
So do you feel more confident now after hearing Anita Anand? She's going to make your life so affordable. You're going to be able to go on vacations, summer road trip, afford gas, groceries, rent. Everything is going to become affordable now that we have a new Liberal government with the same faces. Are you excited? I know I am. Now I have a clip of Elizabeth May in the House of Commons. I have to pre-warn you, you need to breathe deeply for this one.
Petitions, présentation de pétition, the member for Sanders Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to present a petition from constituents and Canadians coast to coast. Certainly is an issue that came up on the doorsteps when I was campaigning. The petitioners ask that this government take seriously its commitments under the Paris Agreement to avoid the dangerous and even catastrophic levels of climate and global warming that will occur if we exceed the 1.5 degrees C global average temperature increase. The petitioners call on the Government of Canada to take many steps. I'll summarize them by saying this, Mr. Speaker, to cut emissions dramatically, to ensure that we avoid the levels of climate crisis that will put human civilization itself in jeopardy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I don't have much to say about this. You could only imagine what I'm thinking. And Olivia Chow had an important meeting with Mark Carney. Take a look at this picture. What in the world are those two people talking about? Leave a comment. Let me know. So this is the way that Canadian grocery stores are joining the Elbows Up movement, because we're not sorry for choosing Canadians. Bags up. The memes write themselves in Canada. That's it for today's news report. I really hope that when they table their expenses, because they're not tabling a budget, they're just tabling how much they're going to spend, it's going to trigger a confidence vote. And I really hope that the NDP and Bloc Québécois do the right thing and take this government down before it completely wrecks everything. We can't afford all of this expenses. It's going to explode inflation even further. I'll see you on the next report.